Thank you very much, Macron, and thank you for daring to call us to this meeting. I'm told it was How Dare You conference, but in any case, we're here. Let me just speak to this in two ways. Number one, I have had my sister Kristalina and Bangra, and we have excellent relations with the World Bank and IMF from Kenya. And these people have been incredibly of assistance, and we sincerely appreciate. But I am also aware that both Kristalina and Bangra have a job to do, and they have people they report to, called shareholders, and they don't have the final word. The final word rests with somebody else. And that is why we are almost all of us speaking the same language, because we seem to be on the same corner. There are people who are not sitting here, yet they call the shots. Now, we have a situation, and let me speak from the perspective of Kenya, our continent in Africa, and the global south. We need emergency liquidity. We need debt relief. We need urgently new money with urgency, with scale. That's our situation. How are we going to get that in the current situation? Listening to Guterres this morning, we get development resources 8 times more expensively than others. We have inadequate resources, and it takes forever to access it. So how do we, how do we make meaning of this summit that my brother Emmanuel has put together? Our position is that if you want to get debt relief, emergency liquidity, and new money together, let us live here having agreed on one thing, that, like Guterres has said, let's look for 500 billion new money. But if we are going to distribute it the way we did SDR, we will end up with nothing. SDR, we ended up with $33 billion in our continent of 1.2 billion people. Europe, with 450 million people, ended up with 5 times what we got. You heard it this morning, not from me, from the UN Secretary General, that we got 13 times less as Africans as compared to Europeans, because the whole architecture, and by the way, it was fair by the architecture, the current architecture of the financial system. But it is grossly unfair when you are looking at fairness. So, what are we saying? By the way, France has been phenomenal. When it comes to SDR, they were right at the front, and we appreciate that. What we are saying is different. Is that what you're saying? You're saying is good, but it's not what you're saying. We are not saying that we continue to have what the taxes France is paying, the taxes Kenya is paying in the current setup. Those are national issues. We need a financial transaction tax at a global level where even countries like Kenya pay. We do not want anything for free. You will pay more eventually because you have a bigger economy. We will pay commensurate to our economy. And we want those resources controlled not by IMF and World Bank, because IMF and World Bank you have the final say. We don't have no say. We want another organization of equals, where you have as much say because you pay, as much as we do because we also pay. That's the organization we are looking for. And that is why we are saying we need a new financial architecture, where governance, where power is not on the hands of a few people. We can agree on the governance of the institution. We can agree on the sharing of power so that all of us have access to resources that go to making sure, number one, renewable energy. We invest in decarbonization. Number two, adaptation, mitigation, smart agriculture. Number three, restoring our planet, restoring our biodiversity, and making sure our carbon sinks work. This is what we are saying, and we would appreciate a little understanding. We want to be, you know, we are talking the normal. If we continue talking the normal, Emmanuel, we will never solve this problem. Things are not going forward, they are going backwards. Tokenism, installment will not solve this problem. We have a much bigger problem than the installment we are discussing here will solve. You're not hearing us.
I will, if I may, yeah. I will answer you in 2 words to conclude. No, but
and let me just finish one more. When Ajay was saying 1 to 5 or 1 to 1, who is 1 and who is 5? Private sector versus who is 1 and who is 5?
$5 of private sector mobilization for every dollar of money that comes in.
5 from private.
Surely, Ajay. How do you persuade the private sector to bring their money for public good? Private sector is driven by profit, my friend. I mean, unless you persuade me otherwise.
So we're going to run out of time, but there's a whole conversation to be had about what money goes into adaptation versus what goes into mitigation, which part of it the private sector is ready to go for, how they could be investing in renewable energy. There's a whole conversation, which I am relatively confident we will try and address when this group gets going.
At least my objective was 1 for 1. But it's feasible because I think the whole point is if you take the first loss.
I agree with you if that is the
case. But I mean, I love having bold people and I mean, I take the point.